Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. It's 2024, folks, and the new year is off to a pretty crazy start. In the future, I might address the bowl games for FSU and UM and the implications of those, but as of right now, we have more important matters. In breaking news today, that both UM and FSU are greatly affected by Cam Ward has declared for the NFL draft. He was the top target for UM and also one of the top targets, if not the top target, 1A to 1B for FSU for their quarterback position. Both of these teams need a veteran bridge gap to 2025. On UM, you have Emory Williams and Ja'Cory Brown, who aren't necessarily ready to start either of them, even though some of them have shown, actually both of them, have shown true potential. On FSU's side, currently you have Brock Glenn, and that's pretty much it on scholarship. Next year, you'll have Luke Kromanoke, that we covered already. So, again, you need that bridge gap of 1 year. The bombshell dropped this morning, Cam Ward declaring for the NFL. Now, this adversely affects UM infinitely more than it does FSU, because we'll cover FSU momentarily, but we're going to focus on Cam Ward right now. Now, for those of you who do not know, Cam Ward was pretty much the top QB transfer in the portal. 6'2", 223 pounds. Last year, he played at Washington State, completed 67% of his passes, virtually 66.6, 3,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 picks, and he also ran for 8 touchdowns as well. So he's the type of explosive player that would fit well in either system, whether it's Mike Norvell or under Shane Clausen and the Mario Cristobal-led Hurricanes. So this is a matter of UM going all in on him. And they were under the impression that he was going to go there. Sources close to Jackson, who is a local reporter for the Miami Herald here, said that UM had an NIL agreement in place with Cam Ward, which is why they were so confident he was going to come to the University of Miami and play out one more college year in their system. He went radio silent, and again today he dropped the video saying he was declaring for the NFL draft. Now, here's the tiny detail that a lot of diehard fans are noticing and holding out hope. He has not hired an agent, so he can still come back to college football up until January 15th, where he would have to submit the paperwork for the NFL for the draft in April. So some are holding out hope that there's still 14 more days for the University of Miami to convince him to come there and improve his draft stock. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. Once you declare for the draft, I don't see how you're going to turn around and say that you're going to come to the University of Miami. The problem with this is, again, UM went all in on Cam Ward. There was the belief that Will Howard, the Kansas State quarterback, was ready to commit to Miami if they were willing to have him. They didn't. Now Cam Ward is either going to USC or Ohio State. It just depends on, where he goes, who's comfortable giving him an offer. If Ohio State's comfortable with Devin Brown, if I can't remember the quarterback, but he just threw 6 touchdowns for USC. He's been in the program for a few years already. Lincoln Riley said he scared away some competition, which could have been a settled jab at both Malachi Nelson, who was a 5-star recruit for Lincoln Riley, who's transferring out, and he was a true freshman, and it could have been a subtle jab at Will Howard. So we'll see how that works out. But UM, unfortunately, right now is scrambling for a quarterback. There are rumors that they're going after Malachi Nelson. I really don't see how that helps, considering he was a true freshman last year. With that, you're pretty much going for upside. And if that happens, guarantee you Ja'Cory Brown's transferring. If, I mean, they were going to go after KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas graduate transfer. He's already committed to UCF, University of Central Florida, to play for Gus Malzahn. So there goes that backup option. Do you go all in on Will Howard again and hope to convince him to come? Or do you go the young round, go Malachi Nelson? The problem with this is next year, the roster is built for a strong run at the ACC championship game. Remember, it's a 12-team playoff. If UM can get to the ACC championship game, you beat the Gators in the first game of the season, you go 10-2 throughout the rest of the season, you win the ACC championship game, and you go 11-2. Ideally, you should be able to make the 12-team playoff. Now, is that possible without a quarterback? Absolutely not. This roster is in dire need of veteran leadership at the quarterback position. You're going to have a nice stable of running backs. You're going to return talent on the offensive line. You're going to have talent on the defensive line. You're going to need to hopefully get a safety or two in the transfer portal. Maybe another defensive end in terms of a 1-year stopgap. Maybe not. You should be fine at cornerback. If you can pull another one, that'd be great. But you're definitely going to try and get another wide receiver unless you're unless you're comfortable with Isaiah Horton taking the next step to be, one of the X or Z wide receivers. You got Ray Joseph. You're going to have Xavier Restrepo back. So the key for this team is to have a quarterback that can run this system. Will they have it? I don't know. And it's really late in the transfer portal timeline to try and get a really solid quarterback. You're pretty much going to have to get Will Howard. And if you don't get him, you're settling for someone young. And the upside may not be there. So that's a concern that we'll address in the future with the University of Miami and their outlook into next season. We'll wait for the transfer portal to develop a little more. Kids are going to start taking their official visits. The portal closes in a few days for non-playoff teams. So we should get a clear picture of who's in, who's out, and what visits are in place. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But again, this is not good news for the University of Miami and its coaching staff and the boosters and the fans that Cam Ward decides to not go there. So we'll see how they recover from this. And we're going to go to a bright side. And it's not for the University of Miami. It's for the Florida State Seminoles. Again, they had a 1A and 1B plan. It's from my understanding that Cam Ward was 1A and DJ Ungalele was 1B. Cam's not the option anymore. And in less than 24 hours, this coaching staff turned around and secured the official commitment from DJ. That is official. It's been announced by multiple news outlets. DJ Ungalele is going to be QB1 for FSU next year. And this should allow for pieces to start falling in place for the transfer portal on the offensive side for FSU. They're going to have a wide receiver from Troy who had like 999 or 900 and something receiving yards. A really good weapon. He's going to be one of their top targets. FSU has also been rumored to be in the Evan Stewart sweepstakes, the young elite wide receiver from Texas A&M. We'll see how that breaks down. This is the start of the reload for Mike Norvell. You do need pieces on the offensive side. You should be fine at running back. If you do want to take another running back, that is okay. But you will have Lawrence Toafili, Kazea Holmes, and then you'll have, Cam Davis, Sam Singleton. You'll have Makai Denzi as well if you want the young guys. But you already have your top two for sure in Kazea Holmes and Lawrence Toafili. And then after that, you saw how it broke down this year with Trey Benson, Toafili, Rodney Hill, and then Kazea Holmes got some reps in and different things like that. So, do you need another running back? Not necessarily. Will they take one? Probably. There's a kid from Toledo, I believe. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he has, I believe he's the one who has FSU in his top three. It's FSU, Louisville, and someone else. They're in for a Mississippi State running back transfer due to his versatility as a punt returner, / kick returner, and running back. Again, I'm not really high on getting another running back, but again, who am I to doubt with this way this system works? Again, having those healthy bodies in place in case something happens is perfectly reasonable. They do need another wide receiver, which is why I believe that this commitment from DJ is going to be a springboard for things to come. Now, you're going to have talent next year. If you don't take any wide receivers, it's going to be a talented group, but it's going to be a young group. You're going to have Hakeem Williams in year 2. You're going to have Destin Hill in year 2. You're going to have Ventrarius Jacobs in year 2. And then you have the older guys like Kentron Portier. Is he going to stay? Deuce Spann, is he going to stay? Williamson, is he going to stay? Or are these kids going to transfer out? So it's why you're looking at getting someone like Stewart, who has that ability, who's been in the game a year or two longer and has that separation ability. And now you're going to have some of the talent of DJ throwing the ball to him. I mean, coming out, DJ was a 5-star quarterback, committed to Clemson, played a few years there. He was behind Trevor Lawrence, and he was going to be, in the next line of great quarterbacks where, Taj Boyd didn't really win, but he did put up good numbers, and he kind of brought Clemson back to that doorstep of being a great team. Then you had Deshaun Watson. Then you had 1 year of Kelly Bryant. Then you had Trevor Lawrence. And then DJ was going to be that next step. And you saw a glimpse of it in the 1 year, I believe it was during COVID, where Trevor was sick or he had an injury and he missed the game against Notre Dame and Clemson lost. However, I believe DJ threw for over 400 yards that game and really showed off his potential. And the issues arose when you put it this way. You can clearly see that DJ wasn't the problem because of what he did at Oregon State this year. He transferred to Oregon State. He was under Jonathan Smith, who runs a more pro-style offense, I guess, if you want to call it that way. But he had 2,638 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, averaged, I believe it was over 10 yards a throw. He really showed off what he could do. He started 40 games. He's been in 48 games. And 6'4", 252 pounds. He can do those short yardage situations if needed. Big body, great arm. And he only had 7 interceptions last year. That's what I want to point out too is this kid doesn't turn the ball over. Cam Ward kind of had a fumbling issue, and he threw 7 picks as well. But again, the fumbling issue is the concern. So again, this is, even as a transfer, he still ranks as a 4-star transfer prospect and the number 41 overall player in the transfer portal. This is going to be his final season of eligibility, but again, there's a lot to like from having DJ coming here. He showed in that season last year, without a bevy of talent on the outside, that he can be a good quarterback. And it showed that it's not all what he showed at Clemson. There is deeper problems at Clemson than DJ. And to me, I've always said this even before he submitted his papers to be the next quarterback at FSU, that he was unfairly treated at Clemson. And even with the new hire of Riley as the offensive coordinator, they really didn't have much of improvement year over year. And again, it points to a more structural difference as to what the issues are at Clemson that we've addressed a few times here on this podcast. And I am really, really high on DJ coming to FSU. Honestly, I was hoping he would be the choice over Cam Ward. There is a higher ceiling with Cam Ward. There's no doubt about that. But in Mike Norvell's system, I think DJ is a really, really good fit. Again, big body, big arm. This is take last year for example, not 2024 but 2023. How many explosive plays, and they had that this year as well. But the way the the offense runs, it's running the ball with counters, running the ball, setting up that deep shot or that, post down the middle with the tight end. There's a lot of explosiveness that is available in this offense. It's why it's appealing to guys like Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Jaheim Bell, those guys that transferred in. And that's why I'm saying I think that there's going to be a domino effect with DJ committing to FSU. It's going to make FSU more appealing now that they have their quarterback, and it is an experienced one. Domino effect, folks. I think that's what's really going to happen. DJ is going to be able to run the ball if needed. He'll be able to withstand the hits if, once again, the offensive line doesn't live up to its expectations. But again, there's a lot of good pieces from that offensive line coming back next year. You're going to have some of those young guys that ideally would step up. Someone like Lucas Simmons, or early. He played a few snaps in the Georgia game and had a positive PFF grade. So there are some 4-star prospects or high ceiling prospects that were recruited 2 years ago that should be ready to show up now. And it's going to make, again, that depth, that rotation of offensive linemen easier to deal with. And ideally, they would string together more consistent run blocking. Pass blocking wasn't an issue last year. That might have been more because of Jordan Travis, but still, having someone like DJ does help with that. So, again, the ramifications of these two announcements back to back virtually in this morning on January 1st just shows how quickly the offseason can turn for a program. FSU is immediately feeling good that they can build off of this one commit. You have the linchpin on the defensive side with Marvin Jones Jr., a high upside legacy recruit who's transferring in on the defensive end, which is a position of need. And then on the other side, you have the most important position, as you can tell by the cowards in the college football playoff committee, of how important the quarterback position is apparently. It is the ultimate position. And you have someone filling it in DJ Ungulele. And on the flip side, there's two sides to every coin, folks. Two sides to every coin. You've got the flip side with Where do they go from here? Where does Mario's recruiting prowess show up for this specific position? You've got the trenches being built up. You got that offensive line. That defensive line is going to be scary next year or the year after that. They've got a lot of high-end talent coming in. Where's the supplemental talent? That is what the transfer portal is there for. Now that it's easier to acquire talent through the transfer portal as opposed to years past. This is where you supplement, and this is where Mike Norvell has eaten Billy Napier and Cristobal's lunch. It's why he's won the Sunshine State the past 2 years. He is not recruiting at their level necessarily in the high school rankings, but he is getting the players that he wants, and he's going in the transfer portal and getting these kids like Wilson, like Coleman, like Benson, like Jaheim Bell, like Kyle Morlock. And you flip over the other side, you get, Jermaine Johnson, you get Jared Verse, you get Brandon Fisk, you get Tatum Bethune, you get Fentrell Cypress. That's a lot of talent, folks. Supplementing the talent that he has. And you saw the culmination of it this year with the 13-0 season. You saw against the game in Pittsburgh, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson weren't available. And Jordan Travis still used Ja'Kai Douglas, Jaheim Bell, and the running game to win that game. 24-7, I believe, was the score. You saw when Jordan Travis went down, how the defense was able to step up and play just generational type games of shutting down good offenses or just not allowing positive yards at all. That's what needs to be built up to. And don't get me wrong, there is absolutely nothing wrong with what Cristobal is doing at Miami. He is loading up on the high school recruits, which is what you really need to do. But until FSU can do that, they're doing it with plan B, 1A, 1B. And that's where you're seeing Mike Norvell excel at, having those backup options, having the ability to pivot. Now it's Cristobal's turn. Where does he pivot to? Where does his coaching staff pivot to? Is it really going to be Malachi Nelson? I don't have a problem with Malachi Nelson. It's just the optics of getting a true sophomore to come in and play for this system. Will he even start? Or are you going to start Ja'Cory Brown next year and have Emory Williams recovering and have Malachi Nelson as the backup? The idea was to get a stopgap, to get a Will Howard, a Cam Ward, a KJ Jefferson. So far, you're 0 for 2 on those three options. Can you get Will Howard back on campus, or is he going to go just to USC, or is Ohio State going to make a push for him? If you get Will Howard, then my negativity in this episode is moot. It is useless. It is pointless. Will Howard, again, isn't a magical 5-star prospect, but his dual threat ability, his athleticism, his ability to throw the ball accurately downfield, he's going to have more explosive talent surrounding him at UM than he did at Kansas State. He's going to have a good, I mean, when you compare apples to apples, UM just is going to have more talent at his disposal to use. There's nothing wrong with what Kansas State was doing. They've been a very successful program over the past few years. But behind this offensive line, with these running backs, and you get another transfer recruit here or there, and you've got the explosiveness of a Ray Joseph playing next year, maybe Isaiah Horton steps up, you got that safety blanket and Restrepo. We'll see what the mind of Jacoby George decides to do. I don't know what's going to go on with that kid. He needs an offseason to get the mental part of the game in order with all those penalties that he commits. Great playmaker, just something's missing mentally with that kid. There's a lot at stake here for this UM program. And I don't mean to make it sound so dire, guys. But again, 5-7, 7-5. I'm a man who preaches patience for these programs. Look at what Norvell's done. I believe he went 3-6, 5-7, 10-3, 13-0. I'm not saying UM's going to make that crazy jump to go undefeated next year. But these coaching staffs do need time to flip the rosters into their image. It's a piece of clay. They're trying to mold it into the way they need it to be. But make no mistake about it. needs a veteran quarterback for next year as a stopgap for 2025. And they need to win a minimum of 8 games next year in the regular season and start winning bowl games. Fun fact, Bobby Bowden has more bowl game wins since what's the statistic? Basically, since 2008 or 2009, one of those stats, since 2009, I think, since he coached 2 years after that. Bobby Bowden has more wins, bowl wins, than the University of Miami. 2-1. He still has more bowl wins, and it's been well over a decade since he's retired. And I know bowls are becoming more and more meaningless. But again, let's say wins 8 games next year, and then they get that 9th win in the bowl game. They go into 2025 as a top 15 team, in my eyes, with the talent that should be coming back, and again, the talent that you're recruiting in the past and developing. This is a pivotal time for both these programs. FSU needs to keep the pedal on the floor. Your fan base is disappointed in the high school recruiting. I understand that. But this 2024 class, as we reviewed it, has a lot of potential. This coaching staff has shown the ability to develop people. Jordan Travis, yes, he was a transfer, but he threw about 10 passes at Louisville? Who gets credit for that? Yes, he committed to Louisville, but who did all the development for Jordan Travis? Trey Benson, major injury issues. Cristobal didn't even want him when he left Oregon to go to UM. And look what he's become under this system. Johnny Wilson wasn't just a big dude with suspect hands. And now look what he's become. He's going to be a second-round draft pick, maybe. Might sneak into the first, probably not. But for sure, he's going to be an early-round draft pick because of his time at FSU. Keon Coleman had more eyeballs on him. They didn't develop him. I'm going to be realistic about Keon Coleman. But they gave him a spotlight. And you can sell that to kids too. FSU, even though they didn't get into the college football playoff, is one of the biggest brands in college football. They are top, I believe it's for sure top 10, but I believe it's top 8 team in terms of viewership. You will get scouts. You will get overall eyeballs looking at you with this program. Mike Norvell's got to keep up this Magic Mike transfer portal. Magic Mike transfer portal. I'll say it again. He needs to keep it up because that's how he's going to get these recruiting classes going. Coach Mario Cristobal, you got to get the quarterback. If that quarterback is acquired, this will be a team that will have high expectations that he will hopefully meet next season. So that's it, folks. Just a real quick look at the QB situations for each of these schools. We'll see, in the coming weeks. I may or may not do a podcast on the bowl games because, again, there's not a lot to dive into that. But transfer portal season's still upon us. Visits are coming up. We'll see what type of talent they acquire. Go Canes. Go Noles. Thanks for listening, folks. Let's have a good new year and let's keep that content pumping. Thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights.